still. Thank you for joining me. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you all are well. Queen is up. Been up a couple of hours. Never went to sleep from my last live. Just thinking about some things. Thinking about my friend missing, John. Praying for positive resolution. And also just thinking about the lies men tell. Just the lies they tell. Son, some are very good at lying, I must say. Everything's about perception, is it not? I was talking to my cousin the past 2 days, and she was like, oh, you know what he's saying. It's not the truth. She's funny. He ain't telling the truth. Maybe not. Maybe not. As my brother would say, hi, baby, how you doing? Good morning. As my brother Buck would say, you ain't got a lot to kick it. That was his favorite line. Lord have mercy, that was his favorite line. You ain't got a lot of kick it. So that's the title of this video. You ain't got a lot of kick it. That's true. Why not just be truthful? Tell the truth and shame the devil. You ain't got a lot of kick it. Why lie? What I say, you either in or out. Ain't no halfway in. Amen. You try to give people the benefit of the doubt because that's the right thing to do. You don't ever want to make a person out to be a liar because that's the worst thing you can be. People say a thief is worse. Nah, I don't know about that. I think a liar is worse because a liar can be in your face, in your peripheral. You have no idea who you're talking to, who you're dealing with. You see, a thief will tell on himself or herself probably right off the bat. You understand what I'm saying? If they're going to take something, they're going to take something. Okay, you already know. You assume, oh, yeah, you did this. You took this. If you're right in your assertion that they stole from you. But a liar, a liar is more dangerous. Because many people who are pathological liars, they are chameleons. So they can represent themselves to be anything. You understand what I'm saying? Hello, Sandra. Well, look at you. I haven't seen you in a while. See, a liar can say anything, okay? I've been around liars, so I know how they work. You understand? I've dealt with liars in my family. I can, shoot the shit and be honest on this live stream. I can think of 2 relatives who were notorious liars. They were 2 notorious womanizers, 2 whores, absolute whorish-ass men. So I know the game. I might as well just say I was taught. Let's keep it real. I should know the signs of a liar, right? My cousin was saying, I think this person's been lying to you about something they said to you, Queen. And I said, really? You think so? Now, Queen, you know you're not this naive and gullible. You know this motherfucker been dipping in... Him been dipping in them streets. I said, well, he may have been. Shit, that's on him. You want to lie? Hey, baby, that's on you. That ain't got nothing to do with Queen. Because you can't think that I believe everything. I choose to listen, but that don't mean I believe everything. As I said, I give you the benefit of the doubt. Okay? Hello there, dear. I'm that guy. Of course, good morning. Hello, darling. Hello, Meredith. Thank you for joining me. But yes, a liar. If you like somebody and you're interested, you don't have to lie, right? Unless you have ulterior motives. And see, only a liar with ulterior motives will do just that, is lie. What's the point? Why not just be your true self? Just say everything you got going on and be truthful about it. There's no point in lying. So Why lie? It makes no sense to me. And it's sad to be at the age that I'm at. You see the buffoonery and you tell yourself, okay, well, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, but some still don't sound right. And I don't have to tell the person that what they're saying to me don't sound right. I just let them keep talking because I know eventually they're going to trip up because they always do. And oh my, have they. As my brother said, you ain't got a lot to kick it. Why lie? See, a lot of people think you're foolish and you're gullible. And people will lie to you, especially if they think that you are naive, that you need something, you're needy, or that you're lonely. You know, people lie for various reasons. Some people are just compulsive liars. They don't know nothing else but that. So it doesn't really matter who you are and what your relationship is with that person. You could be a neighbor, you could be a coworker. You don't have to be intimate with the person. You don't have to like the person that way. You could just be shit, the bagger at the grocery store, if you understand what I'm saying. Lie, coming through the damn grocery store line. Yeah, I went here today and I did this and ain't done a damn thing. I'm just saying. Meredith, you all right. The screen's gonna stay blank, baby. That's how I rock. Screen is blank. Because people lie all the time, that's the point. And then people get mad when they're caught on a lie. Now you got to tell another lie to cover the lie that you just told. So my thing is, we can just keep it as nothing. And people just also, they're going to fall off too eventually. Once they realize, man, they ain't going. They don't believe what I'm saying. I can't keep lying to this person because they're reading through me. And one thing a liar will notice about a person that's in tune to the lies is that they ask questions. And a liar don't want you asking anything. Have you noticed? Why are you asking me that? Well, why not? You spinning the story. So why can't I ask you? You hiding something? Well, what's the problem? I've just been noticing this lately. Everybody just been telling some tall tales. And I'm trying to understand why. I didn't come to the table, being facetious in nature. So what's up? We live in a crazy world, do we not? And being a woman is hard work, I must say, especially being a black woman and a black woman at my age. Whether I was dating, not dating, married, with children, without children. It's just a hard burden to carry at times. And life can be so wonderful. That's why I keep telling myself, Lord have mercy. Life can be grand if I perfect my attitude and my disposition to be positive. And sometimes it's hard. You understand? But the lie is just, to me, unacceptable. So my family was like, well, I don't think somebody's being honest in their disposition with you. And Queen, you know better. And I said, well, I gave a person the benefit of the doubt. What else could I do? That's all I can do. I'm not going to make a person out to be a liar until I know otherwise. And then the thing about what they're saying is, how can I prove it? I'm going to prove it on their past behavior, their past conversations, their past way of living, because people do change. Let's talk about that, change. Can a leopard change his spots? Some will say no. Shut your mouth. I think about my own father and his brother, my grandmother's two oldest sons. They were notorious whores. I can tell it on the live because they're both deceased. My father was a whorish man. He liked younger women, dangerously young, if you get my drift. And then the brother under him, he was a whore. Oh, he was a notorious whore. I'm going to confess some things on this live stream I've never told on a live because I ain't got nothing to lose at this point. We're going to go all out from here on out on this network. Because most of the stories I've told you on here were true stories, as to the best of my ability, that they were truthful and factual. So let's spin the web, shall we? My uncle married a woman claimed to have loved her, but he was a whore. And he slept with many women in the general area, from Knoxville down to Roane County. God knows where else. And the sick part of the story is that he would take his beloved niece, Angela, on his rendezvous. And many people would say, damn, that's cold. Of course it's cold. But you don't introduce children to filth, because you don't understand that you're framing the mind of the child, you see. And when I end up telling this version to the ex-wife many years ago, she and my uncle were divorced, she said, why would he do that? Why would he subject you to that? He was wrong for that. Why did he want you to know about his dalliances? I said, well, what's the difference between he and my father? They both are the same. You see, they're evenly yoked. They both were whores, and they didn't mind taking Queen along for the ride, if you understand what I'm saying to you. So I learned about infidelity as a young girl, watching grown men cheat on their wives. So it was commonplace. It was commonplace. Hold on one second. Let me turn this volume down. Folks up going live already with the nonsense. I guess they like Queen. They like, we got to get it in early. Hold on a minute, everybody. Hold on. Let me do me right quick. All right, here we go. Let's finish this. So, where do I start? I had a good rapport with my aunt. She didn't have any children by him. She had two, teenage girls, two young girls when he met her. The oldest one, they didn't get along. But the younger daughter, I guess, vibed okay with my uncle. But I love my uncle, okay? But he did stuff that you're not supposed to do around girl children. Now, no funny stuff, not where you're thinking, nothing like that, no essay or nothing like that, but bringing me around the women, that was the problem. So let's go back in time. Oh, yeah, true crime, let's wrap with that. One day I came from school. It was on a Wednesday, and that was an early day. And I walked into the house, walked into the den, opened the den door, and there is this woman sitting in the den with my uncle, very cozy. And I was looking like, what the hell is this? I was probably about 14, because that's when I came back to Tennessee, 14. So I was 14. It was wintertime. I remember like it was yesterday. I can tell you the color coat I had on. That's how good Queen memory is. I walked, opened that door, stood at the top of the step, because you had to step down into the den. And I'm looking at this woman sitting here with glasses on with my uncle, wondering, who the hell is this heifer? And I'm like, hey. And he's like, hey. And they're all snuggled up. And I'm like, it's the middle of the fucking day. Why he ain't at work? Checkmate. Why you ain't at work? Why you ain't at work? So you in my grandmama's house with another woman in the den, and knowing Queen come home early for school on a Wednesday. Come on now, really? Or did you forget? Maybe he forgot. So that was scenario number one. Scenario number two. This lady worked in Knoxville at the time at a prominent position at a certain agency. Can't claim it because I don't ever want it to ever get out. She worked at a prominent agency here in Knoxville, had a good position, and somehow she met my uncle. And it was introduced to her naturally through my uncle. She would come by my grandmother's house and talk, blah, blah, blah. She would come pick me up, spend time with me. And then one afternoon after school, I guess it was after school, she decided to take me for a ride. And she decided to talk to me. She started crying. She says, oh, I know I shouldn't be saying these things to you. You're a child. But I love your uncle. I love him. And what was I supposed to do? I'm a child. What do I know about love? What do I know about relationships? I don't know anything. I'm a kid. So I'm listening to her. Finally, I just said it to her. I said, well, you know this isn't going to work with you and my uncle because he's married. He has a wife. Well, how's this going to work? Now, at this point, I'm probably going into 14, 15 years of age. So remember, I've already seen him with one woman in the den. Now I'm talking to another woman who lives in another county, Knoxville, and he's messing with her. So we got one woman in one county. Then we got this lady in Knoxville. And I'm just sitting here like, what in the world is going on with this black man? Damn, you got these women from every fucking county. What is the deal? And she's sitting in a car with a child crying. I could not understand what the hell I was listening to. So she had said something to me about some jewelry. She had said something about, tell your uncle to give you that ring that I have. I want you to have it. And I said, oh, okay, sure. I don't know. Well, long story short on that situation, I never got the ring. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I found out where the ring ended up. You all gonna love this. The ring was given to my aunt, the one that my uncle was married to. Checkmate. And my aunt, when we were talking many years ago, we were talking about this story, and she said, what the hell? She said, I remember him giving me some ring. She said, what are you telling me? That ring belonged to that woman? I said, yeah, obviously. I said, basically, you're wearing my damn ring. Imagine that. Ring belonged to the mistress. The mistress tells my uncle to give me the ring. He don't give me the ring. He gives the ring to his wife. Wow. You can't make that up, can you? So imagine her hearing these stories. She's long divorced my uncle, and she's sitting here thinking, Jesus Christ, I didn't know my own husband. Of course you didn't know your husband. Everybody knew your husband but you, because your husband was spreading it around. My uncle was known to be a very lavish gift giver. He would shower women with luxurious gifts. So whatever they wanted, he didn't mind buying. Washing machine, dryer, rings, jewelry, whatever. He was that type of dude. He wasn't your cheap type of whore. You understand what I'm saying? He spread the ding ding and he spread the money. Kind of like how my father was. They're the type. They didn't go cheap. The women couldn't say they were cheap, but they weren't cheap. Not like these bums we have today. But anywho, I shared that story with her as an adult, and it was just crazy looking at her facial expression like, dear God, who did I marry? I said, you married a whore. That's who you married. You married a damn whore. So, where am I going with this? What I'm trying to tell you is that even a whore can have regrets. My uncle regretted divorcing his wife. And trust me, I had to pay the piper for this regret because they kept me in mess over the years. The very reason why I act the way I act and carry myself the way I carry myself and get sick of fucking drama, because I've dealt with it enough from a child to adulthood. It's always something. He would always ask me how she's doing. Have you heard from her? How's the kids? How the grandkids? You know, all that type of stuff. And I'd say, oh, they're fine. They're good. She's good. He was always asking me about her. And down the road, you know, they divorced. Once she heard about all these women calling her house, hanging up, all type of crazy shit. She finally divorced my uncle. I think it was 86, 87. And she went her merry way. She was unhappy at first, you know, because she loved my uncle. But she eventually moved on. But he never got over her. He never got over his wife. And it was obvious because he was always asking anybody in the town, have you heard from her? How's she doing? Well, you had her, you didn't want her because you couldn't stop fucking everybody. And then you go marry this other baby whale down the highway, vindictive ass heifer, and you knew you really weren't in love with her. Oh, let's talk about her. Okay? So we got the woman in the den, we got the woman in Knoxville, and then we got mistress number 3. One day he takes me down to the country, way up the highway, going west, and takes me to a small town near Crossville, Tennessee. I'm not going to get a location. Don't really matter. And he takes me to this woman's house, another woman, and we're all sitting on the sofa together. Some creepy shit. Sitting in the dark. They're all hugged up, and they're exchanging gifts because it's Christmas time. So obviously he went to her, for Christmas. And I think she gave him a watch or something for Christmas. And I think he gave her a ring, if I'm not mistaken. If not, I can track that. But anyway, they exchanged gifts. So I knew what time of day it was. I said, what the hell is this? He's giving this bitch a ring? What the heck? I was a kid, like, why are you taking your niece with you to meet these women? I've caught you in my grandmother's den with the woman. You bring around your other mistress from Knoxville. Now you're taking me all the way up the highway in the middle of nowhere in bumfuck Egypt to sit in some woman's house that you now are, what, proposing to? Wow. So that's the woman he ended up marrying once my aunt filed for divorce. And she was a doozy. She was an evil bitch because she knew that my uncle had never gotten over his first wife, only wife, first wife. And she, I think down the road, played mind games. She would call my aunt's house because word started getting around that my uncle was going over to his ex-wife's house, to visit and shit. And I can tell the truth. He did pay for my aunt to get a deck put on her house because guilt's a motherfucker, is it not? It's years later. So word probably got around town that, hey, your husband's always at such and such house. And somebody started calling my aunt's house anonymously. Leaving crazy ass messages hanging up. He don't want you. He love his wife, blah, blah, blah. No, bitch, he don't love you. He love his first wife. You ain't figured that out. Come on. He's down at his ex-wife's house because he realized he made a mistake and he shouldn't have married you. But that was his choice, was it not? He should have known better. Because this is what happens about the grass on the other side. We always think it's greener, it's better, but sometimes it's not. And, you have to live and you learn. So my uncle was never happy with wife number 2. There was no vibe, there was no connection. Now, the flip side is that a man can leave a woman and he gets with wife number 2 or relationship number 2, and he's actually happy. Because I've seen that happen with the story I told you about the other day. My best friend's father, he went off with wife number 2. And from what we understood, they were happy. They died like a year or 2 from each other. She was his mistress for a couple of years. He married her. He became a pastor. He moved on. Never heard anything salacious about him. He was happy with her. I'm assuming, if not, hell, I don't know. But I never heard anything negative about them once, they got married. So my uncle marries this woman. He's still pining for my aunt. Keeping up mess and drama. It was sad to me because I had to tell him that years before, you're messy as fuck. You're so miserable and hung up on a woman you had. You're trying to make everybody else miserable. What he said and she said and worrying about what she's doing, leave your second wife because you obviously are not happy. You're not happy. So here I have an uncle who slept with different women, slept with the second wife. He had messed around with her cousin. Because I remember one time, the wife came to my apartment when I was younger to pick up an entertainment center. She brought the cousin with her. And then I later found out that woman was somebody that messed with my uncle too. I said, what the fuck? Crazy. So now we go to my father. Same scenario. He was married, but he wasn't happy. I went to Chicago in the summer of '03. Flew up there for a wedding. His wife's niece was getting married. And we decided to take a drive, and he decided he wanted to have a talk with me. So he started talking about his life, how he made a lot of mistakes, and how he spent a lot of money on these younger women, and it was all for nothing. So I was just listening because I was thinking, well, what is this about? I didn't come up here for all this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't come up here to hear all this. I came up here to enjoy myself. But I just listened because I didn't have a choice. I was in the car. So he's going on and on about his marriage, how he's not happy. He wished he had went to Las Vegas. And I had to school my father because I thought it was the right thing to do. I said, let me tell you something. You had the chance to leave your wife when you came to my apartment back in '99 and you disappeared and everybody was wondering where you were. You went missing. Nobody knew where you were. That was your opportunity to renew your life, but you chose not to. You checked yourself into the Veterans Hospital in Nashville because I think he was having headaches or something at that time. And I told him that was your time to renew yourself. That when you checked yourself out the Veterans Hospital, you should have said to yourself, self, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with my wife. I'm not happy with how I'm living with her. And I told him that on that ride, that day we was riding around the city, because my daddy loved to take night drives, day drives. And anybody that knew my father knew he was a lavish spender. He loved to treat you to eat. He was a well tipper. He liked nice things, nice cologne. My daddy was a jogging suit type wearer. He didn't like suits, but he was a jogging suit type guy. So he was a street guy. But he loved, name brand items, cologne, things, watches. My daddy, he was, he was dapper in that sense. Anyway, I told him, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave? Then he started talking about me. Well, you're single and you should be doing things with yourself. And why don't you go to Vegas and blah, blah, blah. I said, that's your dream. As I told you all this before in the last live. I don't want to go to Vegas. What do I want to go to Vegas for? I said, if I want to go out west, I'll go to California. What the hell am I going to go to Vegas for? I ain't lost nothing in Vegas. Don't put your dreams on me. That's your dream. Go do you. You want to go to Vegas. You want to escape this life in Chicago, these hard streets. You want to escape the west side of Chicago. Well, get your ass on and get on. Stop moaning and complaining about this life with your wife. But it now makes sense to me now that I'm spinning you this story. And I'm having an aha moment, as Oprah would say. It could almost make me cry, really. I believe the reason why my father had that talk with me that fateful afternoon is because he knew he was sick and he knew he was failing in his health. And I didn't find out until a year and a half later, because at that time when I, let me think. Was he sick then? Let's see, that was 2000. No, I don't think he was sick then. I'll take that back. Yeah, maybe he was starting to have some problems. I don't know. That probably meant 20 years later. But anyway, I just always feel like there's a reason why he was confessing all this stuff to me. Obviously, he realized he made a mistake by staying with his wife. He wasn't happy with her. And I'm going to tell you why I know my father wasn't happy with his wife. We'll go ahead and tell it all on this live stream. Why not? What I got to lose? They're all dead. So can't nobody come back and say what I said and didn't say. Because it ain't nobody to argue with me about what I'm telling you. Because they're all deceased. Everybody's deceased. My father was unhappy because of how he was living with his wife. My father lived with her parents in a 3-flat building on the west side of Chicago. The mother, who they were living with, and her husband at the time, before Mr. Charlie passed away, the sisters owned a stake in the building. So my stepmother's mother her and her sisters own a stake in the building, if that makes any sense to you. So all the sisters had an apartment in the building. So you had 3 floors, 6 apartments. So the sisters each had an apartment, okay? My father was exhausted as being the go-to guy, the gopher. He felt like his wife emasculated him by always wanting him around, always wanting him to do stuff, always wanting him to run errands, always wanting him to just be a fucking, just a gopher. And he, I think, came to resent her because she wasn't self-sufficient. She wasn't that type of lady that could do things for herself. Now, although she was the oldest of her mother's children, she acted like the baby. They only had 2 girls, but she acted like a child. So although my dad was afforded this comfortable life to live in his house, he didn't have to pay a lot of bills, he was miserable as fuck. Because his wife was, one, codependent on her parents. Her parents didn't even sleep in the same bed. My dear had her own room off the dining room, and Mr. Charlie had his room off the kitchen. And when I was growing up and I would go over there to the apartment to visit them, Mr. Charlie never talked much. He'd go in the kitchen, eat his food. I might come through there, pass to go to the refrigerator or something, speak to him. He'd speak. That was the extent of it. Eventually, he passed on. So it was just my dad, my dear, and the wife. So imagine a man living his entire life as a young man, living in the city, courting this woman, moving into that apartment, because they stayed in that apartment for years. And it was just him and his wife in one room, my dear in one room, and then Mr. Charlie in his room off the kitchen. So you're seeing dysfunction at its best. So my father got a glimpse of that. Okay, this woman, she ain't even sleeping in the bed with her own damn husband. And then next thing you know, my father, he's out stepping out, doing his thing with young women, young girls. I mean, just doing some just outlandish, illegal shit. You understand what I'm saying? Because he was a whore, bottom line. He liked women, young girls. He liked young girls. He had a penchant for young girls. Really, by law, he would be considered a sadist because he liked girls that were not of age. Got one young girl pregnant. Wife never knew about that. She suspected, when my father got sick and I went up there in 16, she said she suspected my dad had another child. And of course, Queen took the brunt of that because I knew about the child, but it wasn't my place to tell her, over the years, that was his job to tell her he had another child, but that's another story. He was miserable because his wife was the type of female, she couldn't do anything for herself. She didn't cook. She didn't do shit, but just dress up, nice clothes, worked at a high school, local high school. My dad worked at the same high school. He was head of security. She worked in the principal's office. She was a secretary. So he worked at the same school where she worked. So every day, naturally, they get up, they go to work, they're going to the same school, but they're not happy. He's not happy, but he's playing the role. It was a sad situation. His wife was the type of female that when there were functions with their friends, her friends, she would take my father with her. So you would think a woman's out on the town with her girlfriends, the girlfriends invite her over. Hey, let's have a party, let's have a function, let's have a get together. You're expecting the woman to show up alone, not with her husband. You understand what I'm saying? And my father told me he got tired of that. He got tired of always going to the friends' houses and he's the only guy there. He got tired of being at the apartment building and the sisters, the mother-in-law's sisters always wanting him to fix something, change a light bulb, do this, do that. He was overwhelmed. And I told him on that faithful journey up there back in 2003, when I went up there for that wedding, his niece's wedding, I said, let me tell you something. Why are you telling me all this? You've been with this woman for years and now all of a sudden you want to start complaining about You feel messed up because you've been the only guy hanging around the building, the only guy living in the building. You're the only guy that all the women are calling to fix stuff and tinker with stuff. And every time you go somewhere with your wife, she wants to take you around her friends, and the other women don't got no men, no husbands. You feeling some type of way. You should have said something. Why are you telling your daughter? So do you all see there was a pattern with my father? Same thing. He's venting out his problems to his child. His brother, same thing. Venting his problems to a child. I've been exactly what my dad's complaining about. You feel like a gopher with your wife, her mother, her sisters, the mother's sisters, your in-laws, sisters, whomever, but you're doing the same to me and I'm a child. So how is it different? In the end, my uncle passed away years ago. Very sickly. His ex-wife passed away a few months ago. Don't know what his wife is doing. Don't care. So I don't care for her. My father passed away in 2016 of heart failure, kidney failure. It's a very, very tragic situation for the Queen. And the wife died 1 year to the date of my father passing with pneumonia. And she was bitter at the end when I last saw her in 2016 because she was mad that his secrets had come to fruition about my sister, who she didn't know, anything about. She had suspected, but she didn't have, confirmation that my father had made an outside child. What I'm trying to tell you is that life is too short for all this lying. That's my point. That you ain't got a lie to kick it. I've dealt with two notorious whorish men in my life. My uncle and my father. Okay? The oldest child, forgot about him. He died many years ago out in California of a very tragic disease that most of you know about. And then there was my father, and then there was Jay. So my father and Jay were just whorish ass men. And it's a shame to even say this as an adult. Those are the memories I have of these people. Just a bunch of trauma and a bunch of lies and a bunch of messiness. And what people don't understand, that messiness and men who are always caught up in drama, it comes from somewhere. And we talk about this all the time with true crime. And I talk about this with you all the time pertaining to how people turn out the way they turn out. It's because that shit comes from childhood. It comes from trauma. A lot of people are traumatized. And this is why when they become adults, they don't know how to navigate. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to conduct themselves. So they're carrying this baggage around, and then they exact this bullshit. My grandmother wasn't a very, affectionate woman, which was told to me, which I witnessed anyway as a child. Once I got a little older, I could see she was very rough around the edges. She didn't nurture her boys as she should have. She didn't congratulate her sons. She didn't hug them. She didn't dote on them. And that was something I remember hearing my father say to my aunt, my uncle's first wife. They were in the living room talking, and he was saying, yeah, mom didn't hug us, congratulate us a lot. So she was more, she's very hard raising us, which naturally you're going to have to be a little stern. You're raising 5 boys. So my grandmother wasn't a nurturer, and that's possibly why her sons were troubled individuals when they became adults. That's, that's expected. It's not saying that you can't navigate on your own and try to learn the ways of the world, but childhood is prevalent. You need some type of guidance and some type of structure so you don't go out here and make such crazy mistakes in life. But we're all human. You're going to make mistakes because once you're an adult, you do what you want to do. So they didn't get the nurturing they needed from my grandmother. So I think that's why my uncle, my father, they were rough around the edges themselves. They were heartless. They were heartless. And I think even in the end, when my father was dying, he didn't even want to tell the truth about his daughter. And I thought, dear God, you're dying. Your organs are failing, and this is the attitude you have? And that disturbed me. So I go back in time and bring it forward to what I deal with now with men. And it's the same bullshit. It's the same bullshit. Everything that I experienced as a young girl growing up between the father and the uncle is what I'm experiencing now. The same lies, the same buffoonery, the same chameleons, the same putting on, the same flattery. It's sickening. Because you should be better than that. You should say to yourself, I'm better than this. I want to be better than that. Why do you want to be out here making up shit and deceiving people? For what? Because you don't have to be on that path. It's a choice. You're not happy with somebody? I'm going to say this to anybody listening because somebody needs to hear this. And I don't care if you're a woman, you're a man, whomever you are. You are not happy with yourself, then you need to do your best to change your path. You don't like where you're going, you are the orchestrator. You are the captain of your ship, not nobody else. You don't like the relationships you're having with people, then bow out. You don't like the way you're being treated, you tell the person how you feel, they don't want to make a change, you bow your ass out. You're not happy with somebody, bow out. Because let me tell you something. You do not want to be like my father and his brother. They died miserable. Please listen to what I'm saying. They both died wanting out. I know because I dealt with them personally. My uncle continued to pine for his first wife, probably up until death. My father wanted out from his marriage, and he did not. And in the end, they're both shuffling around the house sickly. One can't do nothing for the other. They got to get other people to do shit. Drive them around, do stuff. You see how the tables turn? My father was a vibrant guy, go-getter. Here he is, couldn't even put his own pants on before I got to Chicago to see what the hell was going on with him. Lying in a bed, smaller than me. Was a life wasted. Same thing with the uncle. It was a life wasted. They both died sickly and wanting out from their marriages. So this is why I'm saying to men specifically, you're not happy, get your ass out. Because you don't want to be sitting up one day in a wheelchair or a chair, can't put your pants on, wishing you had went to Vegas or went to New York or went and got the other lady or whatever the hell you got going on. You don't want to be in that place, I'm telling you. You don't want to be saying, what if? What if I had just done right and stayed with the first wife? What if I had just tried to talk to that one? Why did I marry this one? I really don't want her. Because you hear that shit all the time. Oh, she's a nice lady. She's this. I don't want to hurt her feelings. But you're not happy with her. And I'm a living witness of two miserable ass men who died miserable because they were very ill before death. This ain't what you want. Why not be happy with somebody that you can feel good about when you wake up in the morning. You're glad to see them. You're glad to hear their voice. You're not pining away for some other woman cross town or 3 hours away or 2 hours away, 1 hour away, wondering what the hell she's doing. Who wants to live like that? I to this day, when I sit here and think about this shit, it's crazy to me because I don't want that for myself. I don't want to be that woman that gets caught up with somebody that I know is not right for me. I know they're not faithful. They're not truthful. They ain't got no redeeming qualities, but I'm just settling just to say I got somebody. I don't want to be that person. So that's my advice to anybody listening to this live stream. You don't want to have to settle just to say you have somebody, just to say, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I'd rather be truthful with you and know I did the right thing by telling you the truth. I'm not happy with you. I leave your ass and you go on and find happiness, and I find happiness for somebody else, or I'm alone. It's okay. It's okay. Why not be able to sleep at night knowing you did the right thing? And I told my father that many years ago. I said, had you left her, you could be happy with somebody else or alone, and so could she. When you disappeared from her in 99, she had no choice but to move on. She didn't know where you were or nothing. She would have moved on. Either one of you could have filed for divorce, abandonment, move on with your life. And as I was telling somebody the other day, a relative, I said, you don't really know how cutthroat my father was. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, my father was so cutthroat that when he came to see me in 99 and he had left his wife, he walked out the door like he was coming back, but he didn't. He stayed gone a couple of months, several months. Of course, they ended up getting back together. But the crazy thing is, he and the mistress were calling my phone. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying to you? The wife's calling Queen. Have you seen your father? Have you seen your father? I'm lying. No, my daddy's sitting right there on the other side of the sofa. This shit is tripping me out right now. My daddy is sitting on the other end of the sofa watching Lifetime, and I'm talking to his wife telling her, oh no, I ain't seen my dad. And he's sitting right there on the other end of the sofa. And I told him, I don't do this right here. I said, this is the shit you all been pulling my whole life. Why are you involving me in this bullshit? I don't want to be in this place. This is not how you do your children. What type of role model is this for you for your fucking kid? I'm your fucking kid. I'm your only kid. Why? Why do this? Of course, we learned I wasn't the only kid. I was not the only girl child. My uncle, same thing. The lies, just endless. So I've got the wife calling me. Next time the phone rings, it's the young woman he was messing with. She's saying, have you seen your father? Have you seen your father? Naturally, I'm lying. He's sitting right there next to me. He's hearing the whole conversation. No, I haven't seen him. Well, I know you won't tell me the truth if you have talked to him, but I'm really worried. He won't answer my calls and I can't get a hold of him. He's not calling. He hasn't come by. And I didn't know what was going on because it really was none of my business. So I told my father, I was like, why are you putting me in this? These women are calling my phone and I'm lying and you're sitting right here on the sofa and you're hearing the whole conversation. This is ridiculous to me. You're too old for this. And you don't do your children like this. You don't involve other people in your bullshit. And so he was trying to whine about, well, it's just stuff going on right now. My head's not clear. I just don't want to be bothered. I don't want to talk to nobody. I said, yeah, but this ain't it, dude. You're married. That's your wife. And then you mess around with this young lady who's the same age as Queen. So Queen had a problem with that. Oh, that's a whole nother story. When I first met her in 95. Oh, I was pissed off. 24-year-old girl with 2 kids and you're married and I'm the same age as the mistress? Oh, yeah, you know I had a problem with that. Then I think I also found out that I had another little sister that same year when I went to Chicago, and he's pointing out some cute little buttercup girl on a porch, on a stoop playing. Oh, yeah, Queen got stories for you, baby. That was the same damn year I found out about the mistress that was 24, the same age as me. Hell yeah, I had a problem with that. Why you messing with this girl? She's the same age as your own daughter. What the fuck? But on to the little buttercup on the stoop. Same year, we took that trip to Chicago. He says, hey, see that cute little girl on the porch? See them girls on the porch? Which one you think's my kid? I said, what? What kind of question is this? Which one of those kids you think is mine? Look at the kids. So I looked at all the little kids on the porch playing. And I said, that cute little buttercup, because she had the skin color like my grandmother. I said, that's your baby, is it? He said, yeah, how'd you know? I said, because she looks like my grandmother. And even my cousin, who lives in Nashville, he's got a young daughter. They both favor. Get the fuck out of here. Shit is crazy. Same pretty buttercup complexion. And I looked at my father and I was like, what the hell have you been doing up here? I said, you got a wife? You messing around? Got another kid, and then here comes this little girl. And you're asking me about a random stranger on a stoop, which one looks like you? And you think that's your kid? And I pointed her out, and he said, yeah. Her mother says, she's mine. How about that? So I got another sister running around here that I don't even fucking know. So my father's a girl maker because my other sister lives in Wisconsin, and she looks just like my daddy. They both dark skinned. Oh my gosh, they are. Oh, she is like my daddy is walking and living. I swear for God, it's shit is scary as hell. And then now I got another sister somewhere floating around. I don't know who the hell she is. Hell, there's probably some more girls walking around. He's a girl maker, obviously. But anywho, that's my story. One of my stories. That I've seen the lies that men tell since I was a kid. And it's sad to say that I'm 53 and trying to date, and it's just a repeat of genetics. The endless lying, the endless manipulation, the endless storytelling. It's like, my God, when is this shit going to end? When are you men going to grow up and just be honest about who you are and be about your journey? Tell the truth. Because you can get more respect from people if you are honest. You don't have to lie to kick it. You're not happy where you are in life, then change it. Because only you can change it. And I tell this to anybody listening. Whether you're a man, a woman, you're single, you're married, you have a relationship problem, whatever, free yourself. Because I'm telling you, you're going to regret it if you don't. And you don't want to end up like how my father and his brother ended up, older men, miserable, sickly, people having to take care of them, and wishing they were free. It's not saying they were never going to get sick, but they could have been in a better situation, living situation while sick. That's my point. So now I get to go back in time and think about all the things I've gone through in life, dealing with my parents, dealing with those jacked up relationships with my father, uncle, grandparents, just all the trauma of life. And then fast forward until now to say, what has changed? You're still attracting the same type of trauma, and you're not even going out there looking for it. Most of the men that I've met on the date site or wherever, they approach me. I don't approach them. I don't go in their inboxes. I don't message them. That's something I don't even do. I don't go in no man's inbox and say nothing. I don't have to. They message me. How are you? How you doing? You look nice. Woo, woo, woo. What you do? Woo, woo, woo. And then before you know it, it's already going downhill. Because they don't want anything. It's all a lie. It's all a ruse. Just to see what they can get from you. Either try to use you, manipulate you, con you, or get in your pants. That's it. And I don't care if they're 22, 28, 35, 45, 55. It's all the same. They don't want shit. And so I'm looking at these men like, why are you on the date site? You're acting like you want a woman, but then once I start talking to you, you don't want shit. So just say what you want. So that should be the motto. Tell the truth and shame the devil. You want sex and sex only, then just say that. You don't want to date, then say that. You don't want a courtship, relationship, you don't want to try to talk to lead to a relationship, you don't want marriage, whatever, just say that. You don't got a lot to kick it. Because there are decent people out here who are looking for love. There are decent men and women who are looking to be loved. They're looking to share their lives with somebody that they have something in common with. They're looking to share their lives with another human being they can grow with. But you can't not grow with somebody who is not genuine. And they're not being truthful with how they actually feel for you. So if you know that you are a man or a woman that cannot commit fully and wholly to another human being, you need to bow out. Because I'm telling you, you are going to regret staying with that person. I'm a living witness to it, honey. I'm a living witness of what misery can do to you. You do not want to end up as an elderly person looking at another human in your face that you wished you had left. Because as time goes by, and I believe this is what happened with my uncle and my father, they became older and they settled in the places with these women, and they felt like, well, I done stayed this long, I might as well just stay on with her, because what else I got? I got a house, I got clothes, I got shoes, I got this. Ain't no need to me trying to leave her. And sadly, the women were stupid because they stayed. My aunt, her ass was stupid for staying with my uncle. She knew he never loved her. He was still in love with his first wife. And my stepmother, she knew my father. There's no way he was in love with her. There's no way she could have thought he was in love with her. Because there were things my father told me that was just baffling to me. Things I learned through him, I think, and my aunt, the one that was married to my uncle. I don't even think they were having sexual relations, him and my stepmother. So you just letting my father lay up in the bed with you. He's turned up on one side, you turned up on the other. What kind of life is that? And I knew the shit was raggedy when I went up there in 16. My daddy had his own room, just like how her mother and father were living. That's how they ended up living. My right hand to God. I was mortified. And the little guy that would come over and help my stepmother, because she was dialysis and shit, and my daddy was in the hospital dying, which I didn't know he was dying at the time. The little guy told the story. He said, hey, Miss Slade, I'm just going to go and tell you, ever since your parents bought this house, your daddy was sleeping upstairs until he got sick and we moved him downstairs. I said, what did you say? He said, yeah, your daddy was living upstairs when they first bought this house. They were sleeping in the same bed. Now, ain't this crazy? A neighbor is telling me this, who was helping my father and my stepmother. He said, when your father took ill, we moved all his things downstairs to this bedroom. They have never slept in the same bed since they moved in this house, or shortly after moving in this house. Your father and stepmother never slept together. So here I am sitting here thinking to myself, like, why would you buy this house to sleep in separate fucking rooms? For what? For what? And I know that when I went up there in 2014, that was probably what, September? Because my mother died in September 14. And I went over to their house to spend a little time with them after my mother's death. He probably hated he had to sleep in the bed with his wife. And I could tell something wasn't right just because I knew that room was his room then, because all his stuff was in there. And he's sleeping in her bed, turned over the way, you know, a guy and a woman sleep when they're not intimate. One's all the way on one side, one's all the way on the other side. And I thought, if you to sleep any closer to that wall, you might as well just cut a hole in it and just go and walk through. It was sad to me. So my father was never happy. He met this young lady when he was a young man. You know, when he moved to Chicago as a young man, they flirted, they dated, but somewhere down the road, my father became detached from her. They were not a happy couple. Same thing with my uncle and his second wife. He was never happy with her. She was a make-do project, because you got to remember, he was messing around with different women when he was messing around with the mistress. And he only married her because my aunt filed for divorce. I don't think he probably would have ever gotten with her. Now, I don't know the status at the time when he took me to her house and he gave her that ring, if my aunt had filed for divorce or not, but that shit was raggedy. What is love? What in God's name is love? Because I don't think at this point, from what I've seen from my own parents and relatives, that I could even tell you what love is, truthfully. Because I don't think I've genuinely ever seen love by two human beings. And I can say this because I can only speak of what I've seen. And I'm not saying that there aren't people out here who don't genuinely love each other and they're married and they've been faithful to one another. They have respect for one another. But I haven't seen true love as far as my own relatives, direct relatives. It's not saying I don't have some relatives that probably were actually in love and love one another. But speaking, paternal, maternal, I have not seen that. All I have seen is deception. And I think my father carried a burden in life and a hatred for my mother because he didn't get the love from her as a young man. He was in love with her and she was not in love with him. That's what he told me. So I think he just navigated in life and just did what was expected of him. You meet a girl, you flirt, you date, you court, if you get married, but he was never in love with his second wife because he was married to my mother first. And I think he never got over my mother. So he just did whatever. And I think that's probably the same thing for my uncle. He married a woman, but he didn't know how to be faithful to her. He spread his penis around town and other counties. And then when he finally got divorced and realized she was serious and she moved on and he had no choice but to move on, he married one of the mistresses, but he wasn't happy with her either. And they lived like right across the lawn from her mother. So the first thing I thought was, well, that's not much privacy. You're a rock's throw from your mother-in-law's house. So don't you see how eerily similar both of their paths and journeys were? My uncle goes way up in the country to move with some woman in Hickville, and his mother-in-law is right across the damn grass. My father goes to Chicago, marries this woman eventually, and was still married to my mother, quite frankly, and decided to file paperwork, which I believe afterwards, that's a whole other story, to really live the same life. He moved into a house with his in-laws. And I won't doubt he was really living in that house, and he was not divorced from my mother, because I remember my mother getting divorce papers in like the summer of 84. And I could have sworn he had, 85, excuse me. And I could have sworn he married his wife in 84, 83 or 84. So I thought, how could he be married to her, but he's sending my mother divorce papers in 85? So really, he was probably still married to my mother and not legally married to his, oh, I can't believe I'm saying this on the live stream. Lord have mercy. I don't think he was legally married to his second wife. He couldn't have been. No, I don't think he was legally married to his second wife. They said, paperwork said they were, but I don't know about that. That's my story. So you see how at this age, with my own life experiences dealing with men and being this old, I'm not old, but I'm older, and seeing the horrible relationships between men and women, horrible relationships with my acquaintances, friends, family members, all the horrible stories I've seen, women sharing about how men have dogged them out, lied, cheated, made babies on them, got with other women that had 50,000 fucking kids but wouldn't even choose them as a wife. What hope do I have at this point? I'm just keeping it real. What hope do I have at this point? Because it looks hopeless. And people keep telling me, oh, the right guy come along when you least expect it, when you're not looking. And I'm like, well, I hadn't been looking. Just because I'm on a date site don't mean I'm actively looking. I don't go through the profiles. I don't hit the check button. I don't send likes. I don't send messages. I sometimes respond if somebody responds to me, but I just don't readily go look through the profiles because I feel like it's a waste of time. Because a lot of the men that are on there, truthfully, they do have a woman. They're either fake profiles, foreigners pretending to be Americans. Some Americans probably pretending to be that guy in a picture, never wanting to video chat, never wanting to visit. Some are there to scam, scheme. And then the rest are just men who just want to play the little games of buying the women, bartering, the gambling game of women, and hooking up. No, not solo, come on. They want someone to take care of them. Sometimes the mama syndrome, because they didn't get the nurturing a child, anything else they didn't get. Yeah, that's the story of my father and my uncles. They didn't have a nurturing mother. My grandmother was a very shrewd lady. Many people knew her in the community. She was very hard and rough around the edges. I never could understand how my grandmother got a husband. My grandmother married a man that came out of Arkansas, and he was a very nice man. And he wanted me for his own. That's what was told to me by my father. My father told me that. He said, you just don't know, Mr. Joe, he wanted you so bad as his own child. He said it was just something about you. When he met you and, he married mama, he told, your mother, if you don't want that child, I want her. I want to raise her as my own child. So Mr. Joe wanted me as his own kid. And it makes me want to cry because he was a very good man. And I'm going to be truthful. I think he was too good for my grandmother because my grandmother did not know how to navigate as a woman. As I said, she was a very shrewd person and she had a hard life. So Dr. Phil always say, don't get mad at these people for how they navigated as parents because they only knew what was taught to them. She was her mother's only child. I don't know how Frances treated her, but my grandmother did not have the skills she needed. And that's why her sons turned out to be so horrendous. They turned out to be rough, cutthroat men. And I'm going to leave it at that. Damn near all 5 of her children. And they all were boys. So she didn't have what she needed. And so they went out into the earth and they didn't do good by people. It's just the way it is. And there are only 2 sons left that are alive. And one, he's still out there in the street. And then the other one, well, that's another bobblehead, but that's another story. It's sad. And then they always say that about women, that sometimes women choose men similar to their fathers. And there may be some truth to that. That we don't intentionally try to choose cutthroat men, liars, thieves, con artists, bums, drug addicts, alcoholics, whatever the vices are. But we do. Because maybe somewhere subconscious, it's all we've seen. We're telling ourselves, I don't want that. I don't need that. But somehow we attract worthless men. And I would assume those men are just as traumatized as the men that raised us. Our fathers, uncles, grandfathers, so on and so forth. Queen, do you believe you suffer in love because of your father was a cheater? That's the old saying, if a man is a player, his daughter will suffer in love. Well, I never heard that before, Scholar. Am I suffering in love because of my father? Well, maybe so. Maybe somewhere subconscious. I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that. I just know I've seen the worst of man. I've seen misery firsthand. And I don't want to be like none of them. I don't want to be unhappy like my father. I don't want to end up unhappy like my uncle. I don't think my grandmother was ever happy. I don't really think my mother was ever a happy person. I don't want to end up like them. I don't want to be like any of them. I don't want to be walking around pining for somebody that I can't have. I don't want to have regrets that I stayed in a relationship that I'm not happy in. I don't want to settle for anybody. I don't want to be in any of the situations I saw any of them in. And I don't want to be out here using and abusing some guy just to, be on the come up, because they can go that way as well. I go out here and I meet somebody and I'm only using that person for what they can give me. I don't want that road either, because that's not fair to him. That's not fair to some man that says, well, I love you, I care about you, but deep down inside, I don't feel anything for him. I'm just using him for whatever. I don't want to live that life because I know I'll get that karma back. And I'm going to be honest with all of you. Each of these relatives suffered before death. They suffered. And I ain't lying to you. And I've always said this. I feel like they suffered because of how they treated people in life. So, you have to own your part in what you do on top of this dirt. That you don't know the hour, the day that you're going to be in the same position, and that you're going to get retribution back for some fucking way back. That old saying. This is some payback for some way back. I don't want to live and end up like these people, because they suffered. When I say they were sick, I'm talking about sick. And I think about when my father, that last day I saw him in hospice, and they had took him off of dialysis, he had this weird look on his face. And assuming that's because his organs were breaking down at that point. And it was like his face was gritting, his teeth were gritting. It was just, I can't explain it to you. His face was like shaking. And I'll never forget that look on his face. And I remember I was standing in his room because it was a split curtain because he was sharing it with a white man. An elderly white man was on the other side of the curtain in hospice. And I was singing to him, Rocky Top. Whew. God made me emotional. I remember singing that to him. Tennessee, you will always be home to me. Good old Rocky Top. And I just kept looking at his face like, oh my God, this man is leaving here. That's the first thing I kept saying to myself. My daddy is dying right in front of me. And I think he knows he is dying. Because when I was singing to him, he would not say nothing. There was no smiling. There was no nothing. His face was like shaking. And I'm assuming that's because his body was breaking down. His organs were failing. That's some deep shit. So I remember going back to the house, and it was that Thursday morning. His wife knocked on my door because I was sleeping in his room. And she said, Angela, are you up? And I turned over and I was like, what is it? She said, well, I just want to let you know Lynn passed. Man. Whew. So I lost my mother in September of 14. She died of stage 4 breast cancer. And she also went into renal failure as well and was on a respirator. So when I got there, she was not awake. Only the machines were keeping her alive. She was gone, just the machines working. And then a year and a half later, my father passed in May of 16. So they died a year apart from each other. And when my mother was dead, when I went up there in September of 14 to bury her and everything, take off the respirator, all along, my dad was sick then, but he never told me. And I knew something was wrong when his friend had came, dropped him, drove him over to my brother's apartment on the south side of Chicago. And I came downstairs to get in the car with them to talk. And my father gave me some money. And my father was in the passenger seat. And I thought that was strange. And I was thinking, wow, why is my dad in the passenger seat? And so he was like, oh, I got Will to drive me. I ain't feel like driving. And I knew then, I said, he's lying to me. My father always drove. Nobody ever drove my father nowhere. Not one day did I ever see a person chauffeur my father around until October 14th. So I knew that night in that car that my daddy was sick. And when I went to Chicago, that would have been, April of 16, I looked in the glove box, something, and that's when I saw the paperwork that he had kidney failure. He kept the paperwork in the glove box. Wow. And I remember when I got off the plane and we went to the nursing home where he was staying, he was very frail, very small. And when I walked over to the bed, he had a tear come out of his left eye. That was the first time I ever saw my father cry. Lord have mercy. Lord Jesus. So my message to you and to myself is that you have to tell yourself you deserve better, that you don't need to settle And you don't have to put up with nonsense. You do not have to be around people who do not care for you, who do not wish you well. They don't have good intentions. They're users and abusers, and they are liars. And it's sad when you try to talk to people and you want to think the best of them. And you don't want to assume that they are liars. But then if you talk to somebody else about that person and you're telling them what you're going through with that person, and then they look at you and say, oh, Queen, you know better. You know that person's not being truthful to you. That person is only manipulating, conning, bamboozling, whatever. And you're mad at yourself because you're saying, well, I should know the signs. Because God knows I've dealt with it enough in my life to know a liar, manipulator, con artist. But you want to have faith that the person is telling you the truth. You want to have faith that they're telling you the truth. And you don't want to judge them according to how they lived before. That they were a known liar, manipulator, a whore. Because people do change. And sometimes people say, well, a man who cheats, he'll never change. That's not true. That's not true. Because my friend, her father cheated on her mother. He remarried. He married his mistress. And I never heard one time that that man stepped out on his second wife. Never. Never. I never heard his name in the street. I never heard he cheated on his mistress. I mean, not never. Because he wasn't that type of guy. Yes, he cheated on his wife, not making any excuses for why he cheated, but he was unhappy with her. Very unhappy. And I told you all that story the other day. And when he eventually divorced his wife, he and the mistress continued to date, and then they ended up getting married. They set up house, and they died probably a year or so apart from each other. They've been dead now probably the past 2 years. They died living together and married. And I never heard anything negative about him in the street. That he was out here whore hopping, picking up women, doing anything like that, because that wasn't his nature. He just fell. He fell out of love with his wife, or I don't really think he ever loved his wife. He just did what was expected. He got her pregnant and he married her because that's what was expected of men many moons ago. You do the right thing. But he didn't love her. He didn't love her. He married the woman that he loved. I honestly believe that. I honestly believe he married the woman that he loved. So I'm never going to say that a man can't change, a woman can't change. Because people can change through faith if they want to. That's the point. They can change, but you have to want to change. And I don't think all men are the same. And I don't think every man or woman that cheats is the same. I think there are some men who actually love people, and they're also with somebody else, because my father was one of those people. And I'm going to say this and I'm going to check out of here. I think the reason my father left his wife that time in 99, and he came to Tennessee and, stayed with me briefly, is because, and I forgot to say this earlier, so I'm going to say it now. He found out that the mistress he had been messing around with had been dating another man. I know a lot of you are like, what the hell? Woo! Chaos amongst chaos. Yes. You see, what is the old saying? What's good for the goose? It's good for the gander. My father was married, unhappy, dating a woman the same age as me, and he learned that she was also messing with another man. But she could do that because she's single, and he had to have known that. And I told my father that. You can't get mad at her. They had the same damn name. God, that's crazy. 2 Lyns. She was a Lynn, he was a Lynn. I said, you can't get mad at Lynn for messing around with a guy. She is young. She's the same age as me. You are not her husband. You're really not even her boyfriend. You all are messing around and you're helping her pay bills, but that's it. You have a wife. So you can't get mad that Lynn is messing around with some guy. I think he had came to her apartment one day or something. And yeah, there was a guy there. Yeah, it's jogging my memory back now. And my dad was hurt. I could hear it in his voice when he was telling the story. He said, I just wasn't expecting her to have a guy in there. I said, why would you think she wouldn't? I said, what do you think she was doing all that time you were laying up with your wife? You thought she was not talking to another guy, that she wouldn't talk to another guy? She's young. She's a mother of 2 children. You know, wasn't a bad looking girl. And you thought she was just going to sit around and pine away and wait for you to show up at her house and play house with her, and then you go back to your wife? You couldn't have been that naive. That was the first time I could see pain in my father. And that is a man who was very bullheaded, strong, stubborn, where I get a lot of my attitude from. That's the first time I saw actual pain, heard pain in my father's voice. Besides when he talked about my mother. So I think my father had flashbacks from my mother and him never working out, him chasing her not wanting to be bothered, him realizing my mother was just wayward as well. And then years later, he marries this woman, but then he's not happy with her, and he's chasing all these young women around trying to find himself. I think my father was looking for himself, and he never found himself. And then the one girl he finally falls for he's old enough to be her father, same age as his eldest child, which is me. His heart was broken. So I think my father had decided, I'm done with this shit. I'm done with dealing with these women. I'm done with, cheating, messing around. I'm done. And I really think that's when his mindset turned. When he found out Lynn had another guy in her apartment. He saw another guy in there. And Lynn was stupid to have the guy in there knowing that my dad had a key. That was dumb. You don't do that. You don't invite men or women to your house and you know you have a key out there floating around in somebody else's possession. Meredith, what are you saying? Sounds like he was miserable when he found that out. It was a reality check. Yes, Meredith, it was. It was a reality check for my daddy. So I think my father had been holding on to all that misery with my mother, because I think it was told to me, your daddy really loved your mother, but your mother wasn't interested. She was young. She was young, dumb. She didn't want your father in that way. But he wanted her. He tried to make it work, tried to marry her, married her. She still wasn't happy. He went to Vietnam. That's a whole nother story that I really don't want to get into. But my mother was wayward. She wasn't happy either. So that's the point I'm trying to make, is that you have these people who are walking the earth and they're unhappy. So then they breed children, and they breed their children to be the same miserable, because they're inflicting their misery on their children. They're bitter, they're mad, they're angry, they're walking around with all this, pent up ass anger and over fucking nonsense. And then they don't realize they're inflicting that shit on their kids. So, I'm walking around with a miserable mother, miserable father. I got this miserable ass uncle, miserable ass grandmama. Everybody's fucking unhappy. And then they're expecting you to grow up and be this happy ass camper. How can you be happy when that's all you're seeing is a bunch of unhappy people? This is why I keep trying to tell people on my live streams, when I never really told my whole life story, is that there's a reason why I am stern the way I am, why I come off the way I am. It's because this is all I have seen It's just a bunch of crazy ass, wayward ass adults who came from other wayward ass adults. It's genetics. And it's not saying I don't take responsibility for the things I've done on my own, because I can't blame my parents for everything. But just saying, when you see that these people are unhappy, it's in your genetics. You can end up being just as unhappy, and you don't even want to be that way. You don't want to be that miserable person. And I've made a vow, I'm not going to be like them. I'm not going to be walking around here mad at the world and, slamming doors and fussing, cussing at people all damn day. And I don't wake up like that. Are there things I wish I could change? Of course. Do I have regrets about things I've done in life? Of course. Do I wish I could go back and change some things? Of course. But what I'm not going to do is live my life miserable. Wake up angry. Going to bed angry. Walking around here pining for somebody that don't want me. That's the worst thing you can do to yourself. If you do nothing in your life, listen to me good. If you do nothing successful in your life, do not walk around here pining for a motherfucker. Because I know what that's like. I've watched it in real time with my own family. I've watched it with other people. And it's a terrible place, and it will send you into the abyss to pine for somebody that don't want you. Don't do it. I've wasted 3 years of my own life on and off fooling with somebody that was emotionally unavailable. 1 minute they act like they care, then the next minute they fall off. Back and forth, back and forth. I have refused to travel down that road any longer, because I don't want to end up like how my father and his brother were toward these women. One was miserable, one's pining for the ex-wife. I don't ever want to be in their situation. And that's why I tell myself, you got to get it together, because you'll end up like them if you don't get it together. That's my story. I came from a broken home. It sucked. The competition was ridiculous. My brother and myself didn't know which way to turn. Children don't forget, and it's traumatizing for a 6 and 7-year-old. Yes, you're only hurting yourself in the long run. Going through something similar, almost to a T. I thank you all for commenting. I appreciate it. But that's just a little bit of Queen that you didn't know about. Sometimes it's good to release these old demons. And let me tell you something about Queen, because I'm not like a lot of people who harp on, what somebody did in the past and what somebody said. There's certain things I hold on to, but the things about my parents and, these scenarios with my uncle and stuff, I rarely think about these situations. I only decided to share it because I started talking about the topic at hand. You ain't got a lot to kick it. And I just ad-libbed. I just decided, well, why don't you talk about your dad? Why don't you talk about your uncle? How they were notorious cheaters and liars. And that's just something I don't want to keep continually dealing with. Men who lie, men who want lie, men who can't be faithful, men who are out here, screwing everybody under the sun, and then they're coming back up under you, acting like they care, they like you, they're invested. I don't want that shit. I want to carry your ass on. As we say in the street, hey, be with the one you with. It's an old saying, love the one you with. Love her. Love her. Love the one you like. That's what I say. You love her, like her, please be with her. Be with him, whoever he is. If you're a woman, you like that guy, man, go be with him. You happy with him, go be with him. But I don't recommend being with somebody you're not happy with. I'm telling you, you're going to regret it. You are going to regret it. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Lee. Oh, you're welcome, Meredith. Anytime. I lost my mother at 6. Damn. Gotta forgive to make it through, but we never forget. be good to yourself. You deserve better. Well, I'm trying. As I shared with you all a week ago, trying to date Mr. Professional. That didn't go anywhere. Being attracted to somebody else, trying to talk to this one, trying to talk to that one, trying to see where it's going, trying to just navigate. It's just a bunch of bullshit. Because in the end, these people obviously have baggage themselves. It's obvious. It's like you're sending off some radar in the universe. Here, come choose me. I know you're broken. I know you're fucked up, but choose me. But that ain't what I want. And sometimes what you want ain't good for you. You know that. Sometimes what you desire ain't good for you. Because what they say, what you want ain't really what you need. Exactly. Sometimes what you want ain't what you need. You're welcome, sweetheart, anytime. Hello, Gigi. Good morning. Thank you, Skylar. Yeah, I decided to share that with you all. That I want you to live your best life. Don't settle. Because I have been around a lot of people that I have, seen over the years who have settled in their relationships with people, and I knew they weren't happy. You could tell when the pep and the step, there's no drive, there's no smiling, there's no happiness, there's no, waking up and smiling about that person. There's no being glad that you're in the same bed with that person. You don't want that for yourself. I'm telling you, listen, I don't have a man right now, but the one thing I'm telling you is the truth, and it's the truth. That's the worst feeling in the world. It's to wake up somewhere you don't want to be. I know it because I saw it with my father. He didn't want to be with that woman, but he stayed because it's what he was used to. He became complacent because we all have done it. We've done it where we live. We've done it on jobs. We've done it with friendships. We just rolled the ride because it's what we got used to. So my uncle did it. My father did it. You don't want to be that person because you don't want to look up at your life at 60, 70 years old, 80, and you're sitting here pushing around with somebody that you just, we stayed married, we stayed in a relationship just because I didn't want to leave her. I didn't want to leave him. They was a good provider, or we had kids together, or they got sick. I'm telling you, please listen to me. Leave that person before they get sick. Because you are going to be miserable as fuck when they ever get ill. I've seen it firsthand. My uncle was sickly, and I know his wife probably thought, why am I still holding on to this lump of flesh? But she, I think, loved his ass, knowing he never loved her. He was still in love with his first wife. But she held on for dear life. And most people will probably say, for what? He don't love you. He just didn't want to divorce your ass for whatever stupid reason. And you holding on to this big lump of clay, and you know he still loves his first wife. You know this. And I had to school her years ago. I had to put that witch in her place. I said, let me tell you something, honey. I don't care nothing about what you and my uncle got going on, but you all are not going to involve me in your dirty drama with my aunt. You worried about him, me talking about her to him and this and that. I said, my uncle asked me about her. That's what he needs to tell you. This is why I can't stand no fucking liar. I told her, my uncle talks about my aunt all the fucking time. He asked about her, and I don't want no parts of this drama no more. Oh, I checked out because I was done with it. I said, he still asks about her. Why do you think that? I said, so you got a problem. You got a problem with your husband. You ain't got a problem with me. Your husband still wants to talk to her and want to know about her, the kids, the grandkids, and all that. Why do you think that, ma'am? So you want to get mad at somebody, you get mad at my uncle. He wants to know how his ex-wife is doing. I don't have to bring her name up. Your husband calls me to ask me how his ex-wife is doing. I don't call him. And we all fell out, after that. So this is what I'm telling you about trauma. People can loop you into their bullshit because they're carrying around all this guilt. And you don't want to be a part of that. Remove yourself. I don't care who they are, your mother, sister, cousin, what. Remove yourself because you deserve better than that. You don't need to be carrying around these people's wounds and their baggage because that's not your problem. And I've dealt with this with my uncle, my father, them being these whorish men. They want to loop you into their drama. That's not fair to me. That's not fair to any of us who carried these lies, knowing they were out here sleeping around with all these different fucking women. That's not our problem. Now, where are they? They're dead. Everybody in the story is dead. Are you hearing what I'm saying? I think the wife of the uncle, she's alive, as far as I know. Everybody's dead. Everybody's gone. So I don't have to hear any more stories. I don't have to lie for anybody. I don't have to carry the lies. It's over. And I feel like God did that for me. He said, I'm going to erase and move the stones. Because you've carried their burdens long enough. And I'm going to end this misery. None of these people are alive. Yes, it's a relief off my back. Amen. And it's not that I wish death on my parents, my uncle, grandmother, none of them, but they all were chaotic because they all were carrying these lies together. Do you understand? My grandmother coddled her sons. She coddled their lies, all of that. And that's a part of the story I didn't throw in. My grandmother knew about all this cheating and shit. She was right there for it. She was right there for it. So now I don't have to hear the stories. I don't have to be involved. I don't have to continue to lie that I have a sister. I don't have to lie anymore. I don't have to lie to anybody else now. They're all dead. And I'm going to be truthful with you. It's a relief. It really is. It's a burden time. That's why I'm so carefree in how I live, to where I just do me. I ain't worried about nothing. I don't care about nothing. Because I've had to deal with so much from being a young person to an adult. I'm tired. So I just cannot continue to participate in nonsense. Just, it's just like, when is this shit going to end? When is it going to be my time to shine? When is it going to be a time where I'm happy? I meet somebody I'm happy with. I can trust this person. I can believe in this person. When is it my time? Yes, it's a freedom. It's a wonderful freedom. This is why I tell you I feel good that I'm unobligated. I don't wake up worrying about nobody. Ain't nobody here banging on the door needing nothing. Nobody's calling the phone, talking about, I need this. I need some money. I need you to do this. I need you to fix a car. I need bail money. I need you to come to the jail. I need you to come to the prison. I need you to help me with the girlfriend. I need you to help me with a grandbaby. I need you to help me with this. I ain't got those problems. And I don't want them. I don't want them. And I'm telling you, after doing last night's live about social media and the things I was seeing on Facebook yesterday, the crazy arguments, everybody going live and cussing and fussing, all I did was took the covers and covered my black ass up and said, hallelujah. No. I was so happy that I don't have these people problems. There are no kid problems, grandchildren problems, no family problems. I don't have none of these problems I see people talking about on Facebook. Everybody's arguing with their kids, their grandkids, their children, their mama, their daddy, their husband, their wives. Queen don't got none of that. And I ain't gonna have it. I'm telling you something about me. I can love your dirty ass draws. But you just keep poking, man, I'm going to buck up and I'm gone. I'm going to go. because I don't want no parts of that life. I don't care what nobody say. There is nothing like freedom to roam. That's why my father wanted to go to Las Vegas. He was unhappy. He wanted to just be free. He didn't have to worry about his wife. He didn't have to worry about taking care of her mother. He didn't have to worry about being a nursemaid to the sisters, this one, that one. He wanted to be free, and he could have done that. But he chose not to. That was his choice. Nobody told him to stay. Same thing with my uncle. You saw it wasn't working out with your wife. You weren't happy with her. You should have left your second wife. Now, your first wife didn't want you back. Cool. You could have went on and found you another lady friend. But my uncle realized, I fucked up. I should have never left my first wife. I should have never cheated on her with all these women. She was tired. And she should have been tired. She had every right to be tired because she deserved better than that. And I just think there are a lot of men who feel like they're missing something. They want a variety. As I remember a young guy telling me that last year. He's like, I don't want to be with one woman. I don't want, he said, I don't want one woman. He said, I've told these women that. I've told these baby mothers that. I don't want to be with one woman. I want variety. I want to taste different women. Okay, that's your choice. But you have to know there's going to be a repercussion for wanting to taste different women. That's not going to work. You want to go lay with them. You don't want to wear a condom. You're going to get another baby. Now you got to go to court. Now you got to go to, pay for these children. And then you still want to be out here whore hopping with another female and bringing that other fucking baggage with you with these other baby mamas and these children. Who wants that? Nobody. Nobody wants to be with a man that can't pay his way because he's too busy riled up in court. Like my last friend. He couldn't keep $1 to his name because everything went to the courts for back child support. So imagine, I told myself that, well, what kind of life are you going to have with this one? I'm really confessing now. He's never going to have any money. It's not going to really matter how much money he makes an hour. All the money is going to the courts. And of course, he loves his son. He loves his son. Hey, I would do anything for him. That's my baby. I'll do anything for him. I don't care what he owe. I don't care if the mama calls and says she need more money today. I'm going to be there. And I thought, yep, and you're going to be motherfucking broke. You're going to always be pillow to post. You always going to be on a couch. You always going to be living with somebody else. You're never going to be free. You're never going to be happy because you owe out. But that's your journey. And you got to pray that you can go out here in the world and meet a woman that's going to want to ride that journey with you. So basically, she's going to be the breadwinner because you owe all your money to child support. You can't even bring nothing to the table because all your check is going towards a grown-ass motherfucking son. That's a hell of a burden to carry, but that's his burden. That's not mine. And I have to check myself even now thinking about it. What was your life going to be like? This man working a job, but all his money is going to the courts. Then, too, he's always getting himself in some type of mischief. So that's a problem. Then he liked to whine and cry and wild out and talk crazy, act crazy. It's like having a child. And I realized I'm better than that. I don't need that. I don't want that. As much as I still have feelings for this person, I don't want that. Because I deserve better. And I feel sorry for any woman that gets involved with him because she's about to be a miserable bitch. And I'm keeping that real. She's going to be miserable. Well, that's possibly maybe why it didn't work out with the last woman. He said she cheated on him. I don't know what's the truth. Because he lied a lot too. And that's the one thing I'm learning about these men. They just cannot tell the truth about anything. Somewhere in the midst of these storytelling is a little bit of the truth, but it ain't the whole truth. And how can you have something with a person that can't even be honest with you? You can't. How can you have friendship with a person and they're not telling you the whole truth? You can't. So frankly, we can't be lovers. We can't be friends. We can't be anything because you don't know how to tell the truth. Nobody's worried about diseases seen this day and age makes me shake my head. And what is wrong with people? Protect your body. That's the only one you have. Well, Meredith, you can be with a person and assume that they're faithful to you. But if they're out here sleeping with different people, you know that somebody's going to probably come up short. That's life. That's just the way it is. So you don't have to be out here sleeping with a lot of people. All you can do is sleep with one person. Just like you can get pregnant once, well, you can get a disease once. And yes, you're very truthful. A lot of men don't like wearing condoms. They don't. And that's another problem. And that's a whole nother subject too. I'm going to check out because I'm almost at 2 hours. But I want to thank you all for listening. I hope that you all took something away from this live stream that could be of use and helpful to you on your own journey. And know that you are worthy and you deserve the best because you're a child of God. Whether you believe in God or not, you're still a child of God, whether you want to accept it or not. And I don't believe God put us here to have us to suffer. And that's the thing about life is that we came here and we didn't choose our parents, whether they wanted us or not, whether they planned for us or not. We didn't choose them. So whatever bullshit they brought to us, we didn't ask for it. But when we became adults, we had to choose our own journey and make our own choices. No matter our genetics, no matter how we were treated, no matter what we saw, we have to navigate for ourselves. You're welcome, sweetie. Thank you, baby. We have to navigate for ourselves. So my advice to you is to try to live your best life and try to live without regret, because it's a terrible place to be, to have regrets. It's a terrible place to be wishing you could be in a better place, wishing you could have more in life, wishing you could be with somebody, having feelings for somebody that don't care about you, having feelings for somebody that might care for you, but they're entangled with somebody else. Whatever the situation is, it's a terrible place to be, and I don't wish it on anybody. So the best thing I can tell you is possibly remove yourself and find your footing. Find a footing that's comfortable, that doesn't have a lot of stress and baggage and drama and chaos, because it's not a good way to live. It's a terrible way to live. And that's how I live my life right now. I just won't put up with no bullshit. I'm tired. I've put up with enough. I'm tired. And I'm trying my best to be more forgiving. I'm trying my best to give people second chances. But in the meantime, it's looking like I'm being a fool. Because that's the one thing about forgiveness. Forgiveness don't mean go back in. It means, okay, I forgive you, but I've moved on. And that's what we have to understand. God didn't tell us to go back in. He just told us not to hate the person. But he didn't tell you to go back. And that's what we need to understand as civilians. You can forgive, but you don't have to go back in. Because you don't owe anybody anything. So I got some tightening I need to do. I got some shit I need to tighten up after this live stream. Because I owe it to myself. Because I'm worthy. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeGanji129 Cash App. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. You all have a wonderful week. And I'll be back later with more stimulating content and commentary. Prayers for Summer Wells, Sebastian Rogers, Evelyn Boswell, Madeline Soto. Prayers for these babies. May there be justice for these children. And prayers for those who are looking for love in all the wrong places. Maybe one day they'll find it. But in the meantime, they need to make sure they love themselves. Because in the end, you're all you've got. You're your own best friend. The Vault Excel.